Hey, this is Ben. This is the 15th stanza in The Art of Peace. Let's begin to practice. So one of the most pronounced sensorial experiences for me right now is fallen leaves. Different shades of yellow, brownish yellow, pale yellow, and then the leaves that cover everything. There's spots of red, green, gray. And under each leaf is a shadow. It's just a infinite series of little tunnels and sections and hiding places for bugs. And the trees, the leaves that are still hanging on for the last moment are much brighter. Their yellowness is brighter. There's kind of pockets of yellow. And there's some evergreens that stand out. Notice my feet, pelvis, core, heart space, throat, top of the head, full breath. I keep thinking about this idea of warrior. The last couple stanzas have been all about warrior and what it is to be a warrior. And one of the things that I think distinguishes warrior is the need to have something to be brave for, or the need to have something to marshal your energy and your resources against. And I don't really think about that in the context of having an enemy per se, but more just to have something to stay motivated for. Task and purpose. I remember when we were getting ready to go to Iraq, we would watch CNN, and this was in 2006, and so it was, always talks on CNN about civil war in Iraq, and, all this violence, all this destruction, countless people getting killed. And I remember sitting in the chow hall at Andrews Air Force Base and thinking to myself, man, I hope it doesn't calm down before we get there. I hope it stays crazy. This idea that, if it calms down, then what are we gonna do? So we've been doing all this training. So I wanted this opportunity to see what it was all about, get it going. And so I remember getting to Iraq, and the sensation of fear, the sensation of uncertainty was so acute, it was so evident, so present. And it added a sense of excitement, a sense of, oh yeah, here it fucking is. And I dug that feeling, I really liked it. I was scared, but I didn't freeze, or it didn't cause me to be frozen, at least in the beginning. I just felt a sense of, all right, this is it. This is why I am me. This gives me a chance to be me. And so part of that was this idea that if I wasn't in this opportunity, or if I didn't have this opportunity, who I was and my capabilities didn't amount to anything. So it was this idea that if I didn't have something to work towards or fight against, it was just kind of wasting my time. And so I came home and that wasn't there, but I was able to create it. And I created this thing to be against, this thing to fight against, or prepare to fight against, in the form of social economic collapse. So this was, I got back in 2007, the crisis in 2008, the economic crisis in 2008 happened. I started picking up on the Mayan calendar of 2012, and it was December 21st, 2012. I think it was, yeah. That was supposed to be like the Mayan calendar restarted, and it was all supposed to be all this catastrophe, and so I was preparing myself for that. And it gave me this real sense of purpose. It gave me stuff to do, stuff to prepare for, and I really felt alive. What kind of happened was nothing came about. My life still had the typical stuff throughout the day. There wasn't this environment that would allow me to be me. And so there was this experience in my head that was very active and volatile and complemented who I was and what I thought I was going to be. And then there was the experience on the ground, the regular, normal life that I was leading, and they didn't interact. They didn't complement each other. There was a misalignment between what was going on in my head and what was actually happening on the ground. I tried to make up for this by reading news about catastrophes all over the world and reading articles from people who were predicting the catastrophes were right around the corner, to try to keep that edge. Nothing ever happened. So anyway, this idea of a warrior needing something to have courage to fight against, the art of peace articulates this battle as moment to moment. So the idea is that there isn't a larger battle that you're preparing for. You are the battle, the moment to moment. And inside your own head are the thoughts that are battling back and forth. Can kind of create this sensation right now in the context of try to hold your awareness on one thing in particular. The challenge is that one thing in particular, anything, is changing. So inside that change, there's the opportunity for the mind to jump to something else. And my hope was that there would be an environment where my mind couldn't jump to anything else, where I would have to be focused, I'd have to be present. The environment would force the opportunity for me to be fully present and totally myself. And so the art of peace is that, but it's not in the future. It's not something that's going to happen. It's something that's happening in every single moment. Where there is doubt, where there is fear, there's death. Where there is light and love and patience, there's life. The awareness that's cultivated by the practice that we do at the start of every class is not simply just to calm the nervous system. It's to practice being the awareness that sees the two sides. And it sees the two sides not as enemies per se, but as environments in which you can be the warrior. There isn't, the fight isn't against anything. It's the presence of everything, or the presence inside of everything. So with regards to my own ideas about what's going to happen and what's going to fall apart, and then my motivation to practice and da-da-da-da-da-da, the art of peace is applicable inside those thoughts, not in preparation for what those thoughts were trying to anticipate. The art of peace is inside the thoughts, not preparation for what those thoughts were thinking might happen. And so all those thoughts were fear. They were fear that I created for myself in order to feel like who I was valuable. It never really amounted to anything because I was building myself around something that could happen, not around what was happening. As I became more present over time, I began to recognize the battle inside myself was enough to motivate me to practice more. The experiences, the full, unadulterated experience of fear, doubt, and worry showed up inside my being as these just explosions of sensation. Unchecked, those explosions of sensation would remind me of things that were similar, take me to places in the future, wrap me up in past and future, and I never actually go into these feelings. I'd never actually go at them. I would just be consumed by them, pushed around here, pulled around there, basically kicking my ass. And so what I was doing by attempting to create this scenario was actually facilitating and creating the problem that I was trying to get away from. It's just such an interesting thing to think about in the context of being a warrior. The attempt to find something to be a warrior for, or to be a warrior against, is creating the problem. And the awareness itself is the peace. And it's not peace in the context of no longer is there fear, no longer is there sensation that's not uncomfortable. The reality is the presence inside those moments, and the battle is to hold that presence without getting consumed, without getting destroyed by it. And each time that happens, the act of being the courage that I was looking to be, the act of being the warrior, was present. So in this funky kind of weird path, my experience brought me back to what I was looking for to begin with. And so I guess one way to think about this battle is that it's taking place in the realm of thought and sensation. and the thought is trying to dominate. The sensation is trying to dominate. The sensation informs the thoughts inform the sensation. And around they go, and I would get caught in one or the other. And then when I began to realize that I wasn't the thought or I wasn't the sensation, I was the awareness of the thought and the awareness of sensation, that's when I really started to begin that, essentially the battle to kind of pull myself out of my story or pull myself out of sensational patterns. And as I began to do that, I began to see that what I was looking for was inside the moment and not inside some future event. And what that meant for me was that it wasn't the future event that was going to create anything. It was this moment that was creating everything. And by interacting with the moment, it didn't matter what the future was. It didn't matter how things turned out, because I was becoming honed inside the moment of whatever showed up. When that happened, when it happened and started to happen further and further and further, that's when I began to get the peace part. That's when I began to understand the art of peace. It wasn't a place, it wasn't a thing, it was the ability to interact with whatever showed up in the moment inside me. Once that started to happen, and I started to see what the reflection of what was going on inside reflect to me as what was going on outside, I began to see that I was what I wanted to become. As that took shape, interacting with others became a battle, not in the sense of a fight against them, but my interaction with them created internal environments that I had to interact with. The speed at which I interacted with them facilitated either the smooth creation of my interaction or the destruction of that interaction. And there's what was yesterday, patience and compassion and love is creative. Fear, doubt, anxiety, worry is destructive. So I was able to be, I am that warrior. I am the warrior that I want to be, but it's not a warrior against something out there. It's inside me. And as I practice this peace, this art of peace, that battle no longer becomes a battle. It becomes a presence. And that presence is a force of good. It's a force of creativity, of patience, of light. It's a force of good. And that's what I wanted to be all along. The 15th stanza of the Art of Peace is, create each day anew by clothing yourself with heaven and earth, bathing yourself with wisdom and love, and placing yourself in the heart of Mother Nature. Placing yourself in the heart of Mother Nature. 3 stanzas back, we talked about the seasons. 2 stanzas back, we talked about the intricacies of Mother Nature inside the seasons. Today we kind of talked about the intricacies inside, underneath each leaf. These are the pieces. This is the reality. It's this space. It's whatever is happening inside this space. This is the realm that you get to practice. This is you. This is the sustainability element. This is what the art of peace is all about. King, out.